Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chaf Tes, Daf 29 of Masechta Sukkah. It's an exciting daf for a few reasons. We're starting a Mishnah. We're talking about leaving your Diras Keva and going into your Diras Arai. At what point, if it's raining or something like that, at what point can you leave the Sukkah and go inside to your house? And we have the famous mashal for like when it rains and then the king pouring the water on the servant. We'll get there. And then we complete the second parak of Masechta Sukkah, which is really exciting. Which means tomorrow we'll start the third parak of Lulav Agazol, which gets into the nitty gritty of like the Dalad Minim, which is very, very interesting. Okay. Cheve, when the Avchav Chesamud Beis at the Mishnah, Kol Shiva Sayomim, for all 7 days of Sukkot, Adam Oses Sukkasu Keva Uveso Arai. His sukkah becomes his main residence, and his house becomes his temporary space. Yardu Geshamim. Now, if it's raining, Meimosei Mutter Lefanos. At what point can you abort? At what point can you leave the sukkah and go into your house because it's raining outside? Where am I? Mishatisach Hamikpa. When there's enough rain that if you have epis of porridge in the sukkah, it would get ruined. It would become no good. So at that point already, you can go into the house. They said, what is this similar to? When it rains on Sukkot, you built your sukkah, and now you can't use it, it's raining. What's it similar to? To a servant who came to prepare a glass for his master, and the master, the Gemara is going to say it's not clear who's doing what, but the maskana is it's the master. Pasha takes the pitcher and dumps it on the servant's face. Not a very geschmack position to be in if you're that servant. Imagine you're a servant, you're bringing, let's say, a glass of wine, a pitcher of wine for your master. The master Pasha takes the wine and spills it on your face. Aside from the fact that in any case, that's probably a pretty shver matzav, but in the master-servant relationship, that the disapproval that's inherent in that must be pretty devastating for the servant. Zok Gemara, Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Kol Shiva Sayom Adam Oses Sukkasu Keva Uveso Arai. Okay, for all 7 days, a person makes his sukkah, his main residence, and his house temporary. Ketzad, what does this mean? Haylo kelim noim. If a fellow has, proper dishes, ma'alim the sukkah, bring them up to the sukkah. Now, I think Rashi had pointed out recently that the assumption is that their sukkahs were on their roofs. So when we talk about going to the sukkah, we're going up to the sukkah, up to the roof. And when we talk about going out of the sukkah, we talk about going down from the sukkah to the house. So ma'alim l'sukkah. If you have particularly very fancy, nice silverware and plates and dishes, so bring them up to the sukkah. Matzos knows if you have nice linens, so ma'adim l'sukkah, bring them up to the sukkah. Ochel v'shosu matayil b'sukkah. You should eat and drink, and it means matayil is to relax, but tiyul of course is also like an excursion. You should go on excursions in your sukkah. I don't know what that would mean. So mistam, it just means to relax. But your sukkah should be where you're kind of spending your time. How do I know this? The Tana Rabbanan, as the rabbis taught, Teishvu ke'in taduru, that you should dwell in your sukkah in the way that you live in your home. Mikan Amru, from here they said, Kol Shiva Sayomim, that for all 7 days of Sukkot, Osa Adam Sukkasu Keva Uveso Arai, a fellow makes his sukkah, his permanent residence, and his house temporary. Ketzad, what does this look like? Hayulo kelim noim. If he has beautiful dishes and silverware, he should bring them up to the ma'adim the sukkah. Should bring them up to the sukkah. Matzos knows if he has nice linens, ma'adim the sukkah, should bring them up to the sukkah. Ochel v'shosu matayil b'sukkah. He should eat and drink and relax in the sukkah. Umishanon b'sukkah, and he learns in the sukkah. Ini, is this true? V'amar Rava. Rava says mikra umasna b'matzlalta. Only psukim and mishnayos you learn in the sukkah. V'tanui by mimatzlalta, but like learning Gemara would be outside of the sukkah. Lokasha, it's no problem. It depends. If you're learning kind of quickly, so then you can do that in the sukkah. But if it's iyun, if it's like going to require like a lot of like focus space and stuff, so I guess you don't necessarily need to do that in the sukkah. Rashi has an interesting taich over here. If he wants to learn outside of the sukkah, like to learn Gemara, right? Be'iyun, the mitzta'er. What an interesting concept, because he's mitzta'er, he's uncomfortable. Mitzta'er patum in a sukkah. Mitzta'er is patum in a sukkah. What does that mean? That learning Gemara Be'iyun is mitzta'er? I guess it depends. Learning Gemara Be'iyun is mitzta'er, and if you are uncomfortable, then you're patur from the sukkah. Okay, fine. And he says, "Va'aver yafalo laharchiv daito." If you go outside of the sukkah, it might be very beautiful to have open mind to study. Anyways, so it says the Gemara, it depends. If he's just like learning kind of quicker, so then he'll do that in the sukkah. If he's learning be'iyun, so then he will he can learn outside of the sukkah. Kiha, di Rava, Rami Bar Chama, like Rava and Rami Bar Chama, Hutaka were both son-in-laws of Rav Chizda. The kasha is if it was at the same time or not. When they would get up from learning by Rav Chizda, they would quickly go over the Gemara that they learned, and then they would go into Iyun. So we see that there's different ways that you can learn. You can learn, quicker, and you can also learn deeper be'iyun. Amar Rava, says Rava, Mani mashtaya b'matlauta. If you had cups and things that you were using in the sukkah, so if you have a dirty cup, you could leave a dirty cup in the sukkah because it's not such a big deal. Mani meichla b'mi matlauta. But if you have dirty dishes, that you should remove from the sukkah. Chazba v'shachil. If you have an earthenware jug or a wooden pail, b'mi matlauta, you could take that out of the sukkah. V'shagav matlauta, but a candle you leave in the sukkah. Those who say even the candle you take out of the sukkah, there's no argument. It depends how big the sukkah is. If it's mamash, a minimum size sukkah, so then the candle also you can take out of the sukkah. But if it's mamash like a minimum size of a sukkah, then there's no room lemaisa for your candle. Yardu geshamim, if it rained, so tana mishatisach hamikpa shal grisen. So when we say that once the porridge becomes spoiled, so you can go inside. So that's talking about a porridge of grisen. Grisen is like barley, at least in modern Hebrew, and apparently that kind of goes bad pretty quickly. So like once you get kind of to this basic level of rain, you could already go inside. Abaye of Yosef Matlalta. Abaye was sitting by his Rebbe of Yosef in the sukkah. Noshav Zika, and it was poshet windy. Vika Maise Tzivusa, and some wood chips fell from the schach, and it was falling onto the food. Amalu Rav Yosef Panuli Mane Mehacha. Rav Yosef said, "All right, let's get everything out of here." Amalei Abaye. Abaye says, "V'atana mishatisach hamikpa." Abaye says that. What do you mean? You go inside once the porridge becomes no good, and we're not good. So some wood chips fell, but I don't see any no good porridge. So Amar Le Ledidi came in the Anina Daitoi Kimishatisach Amikpadami Li. So says of Yosef, since I'm very particular, so some wood chips falling on my food is basically the equivalent of the food becoming no good. So he says that's basically the equivalent for me, and let's skedaddle. Taner Abanon Hayaocha Besukkah V'Yardu Geshamim V'Yarad. If you had a fellow who was in his sukkah and he was taka eating, and then it started to rain, so he went inside. V'Yarad, he went inside his house. Ein matrichin also lalos achigmor sudaso. We don't bother him to go back up to the sukkah while he's still in the middle of his meal, right? So he was in the middle of the meal, he was in his sukkah, started raining, it became uncomfortable, so he brought the meal inside, and then it stops raining. We don't say, okay, go back upstairs now. So no, you can finish your meal inside. If he was sleeping in the sukkah and then it began to rain, and then he went inside. In matrichin also lalos ad sheyeor. So we don't say go back up to the sukkah until sheyeor. So the question is, what does it mean sheyeor? Is it with an aleph, which means until it gets light out, or sheyeor with an ayin, which means when he wakes up? Tashma kamanir ad sheyeor v'yala amud hashachar. Well, we have a price that says until it becomes light and it becomes Amud HaShachar. Light implying like Netzach Chama, Amud HaShachar implying, dawn. Tarte, what's the deal? How could it be both? It can't be Netzach Chama, which is later, and also Amud HaShachar, which is earlier. So Ella, Ema Ad Sheyeor V'Yala Amud HaShachar. Rather, what it means is until Yeor with an ayin, which means to wake up, and Amud HaShachar, and it becomes light out. Meaning, the latter of the two, right? Meaning, if you're sleeping and it's raining and you go inside, so if you wake up and it's not yet the morning, you don't have to, go back upstairs. And meaning assuming that the rain ended, and if it's Amud HaShachar, you don't have to set your alarm now for Amud HaShachar, so that right when it's Amud HaShachar, you got to go back upstairs. No, you sleep and you wake up. Once you wake up and it's the daytime, that's when you would go back up to your sukkah. Fine. Mashal Lamada Radome. So the Mishnah had said, okay, when it rains on Sukkot, what is that similar to? So we said it's similar to a servant and a master with the pitcher of water. So Yibaylu Mishafach Lemi, who's pouring? Is it saying that the servant was with the master and he accidentally, or maybe not even accidentally, but poured the water on the master? So is it saying that like when it rains on Sukkot, it's an indication that the Yidden are being nudniks? Or is it saying that the master is pouring the pitcher on the servant to sort of indicate that you're in big trouble, Buster? So we have a brayso that says that it's Taka the master who poured the pitcher on the servant, and he says, I'm not interested in your servitude, your service. Okay, so now we're going to get into all these kind of abstract agaritas. So friends, you ready? Good. Tashma bizman shachama loke, when the sun gets problematic. It's a bad sign for the whole world. What's it similar to? It's like a king who made a suda for his servants, for all of his people. And he put a lamp in front of them so that there should be light. And then he got upset at all of these servants, so he said that get rid of the lamp and make everybody sit in the dark, meaning the darkness was an indication of the displeasure of the king. So also if the sun goes dark, so it's an indication of displeasure with the world. Tanya, we learn Taka in a Brisa. Reb Meir Omer says, Reb Meir, whenever the lights get struck, it's a bad sign for the Yidden, because the Yidden unfortunately are accustomed to getting killed and stuff, pogroms and those kind of inyonim. So Mashal Sofer Shabbat Vesa Sefer, it's kind of like a teacher who comes to the school, and he's got his whip handy. Midoig, so who's going to become nervous? Somebody who gets beaten every day, so he gets nervous because he sees the Rebbe's whip and he doesn't want to get beaten. So also when you see that things are becoming problematic in the world, so the Yidden get nervous because they realize, well, when things become problematic, that usually is not good for us. The Rabbi Stabis Manshachama Loke, when the sun gets smitten, Simin Rala Ovde Kochavim, so it's a bad sign for the idol worshippers. Levana Loke Simin Rala Sonem Shal Yisrael, when the moon gets smitten, so it's a bad indication for the Yidden. Because the Yidden, well, they count by the moon. The idol worshippers count by the sun. So therefore the sun gets smitten, it's bad for them. The moon gets smitten, it's bad for us. Now we had said, the first thing we had said is that when the sun gets smitten, it's bad for the Gans Welt, but okay, weiter. Where am I? Loke b'mizrach, if the east gets smitten, simin rali yoshve mizrach, so it's a bad sign for the people who live in the east. B'mayrev simin rali yoshve b'mayrev. I guess maybe it means like if the sun gets like smitten in the west or something, so it's bad for the people in the west, or I don't know, something in the east, something in the west. Bad for the people in the east, bad for the people in the west. Be'emtza rakia, yeah, mistama, I guess it's the sun. Be'emtza rakia, if the sun gets smitten in the middle, simin rali chol olam kulo, it's a bad sign for the ganze Welt. Panav dom the dam, if the sun looks like blood, cher bala olam, so then a sword is going to come to the Welt. The sak, if the sun is like a black sack, so chitze ra'av ban la'olam, so then there's going to be starvation, hunger. Yikes. Lazo v'lazo, if it's red and black, cher v'chitze ra'av ban la'olam, so there's going to be sword and also hunger, famine. So pretty schlecht. Laka b'chnisaso pranos sho'elavo, if the something happens to the sun when it's like setting, so then like knisaso doesn't mean when it rises, it means like when it's entering back to go home. So then it means that the danger is going to take a while before it comes. B'tziaso, when it, if it gets smitten like when it rises, so mimaheres level. So then this the bad stuff is going to come very quickly. Those who say it's taka the opposite, that on its way out, it means that it's like there's no more time. It's coming right away. Whereas on the way, when it rises, that means that there's still time for the sun to be out, i.e. if that's the punishment bad stuff, so it means that there's time for the punishment bad stuff before it executes, before it, what's the word, reacts, acts, activates. That whenever a nation gets smitten, so also it's like Sar, it's like heavenly representative gets smitten as well. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, that it says by Yetzias Mitzrayim that, and also all of the ministers of Egypt I will make shvatim, like stuff. And as long as the Yidden are doing the will of the Eibishter, they don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Ko Omer Hashem, this is what the Eibishter says, El derech hagoyim, al tilmadu, don't learn about the ways of the goyim. Me'osos hashmayim al techatu, don't be worried about what happens in the heavens. Ki yechatu hagoyim mehema, only the nations have to be worried about that. Over the kchav mechatu ve'nisay yechatu, that as long as the Yidden are doing what they need to be doing, so then don't worry about what's happening in the heavens, you'll be okay. There are 4 reasons why the sun might get smitten. If you have the head of the bezdin, so a choshev, a mensch, he passes away and he's not eulogized appropriately. Lemaise, a betrothed woman who gets raped and nobody came to save her. On homosexuality. Ve'al shnei achin shenishbach, I guess male homosexuality. Ve'al shnei achin shenishbach damon ke'echad, and 2 brothers that got killed. Alright. And there are, because of 4 things, the like lights and stuff get loken. Does that apply to the lights in my dining room? I'm going to assume not. Baruch Hashem, we were masakin. We did a tikkun for the lights in the dining room. So al kosve plaster v'amide edu sheker. So the lights get smitten for people who write fictitious documents. Where am I? V'amide edu sheker, and people who testify falsely. V'amagadli behemadaka be'eretz Yisrael, people who raise like sheep and stuff, like animals that need to like graze in Eretz Yisrael because they graze in other people's fields, and that's stealing. And people who cut down good trees. And for 4 reasons, the property of homeowners are handed over to the authorities. People who leave over documents that have already been paid, right? Meaning, if I have a document if Reuven has a document that says Shimon owes him money, and Shimon already pays him back, and Reuven still holds on to the document so he can collect it a second time, That's a schwer move. Well, I guess schwer if you're Shimon, but we're saying because of Reuven, though, if he does that, so then he's going to lose everything he's got. Valmalve bribis, people who loan with interest. Val shehaya sipek biyadam limchos v'lomichu, people who had the ability to be able to help out in a given situation and they didn't. V'al sheposkim tzedakah b'rabim ve'inanos, and people who say publicly that they're going to give a whole bunch of money and they don't actually do it. Amar Rav said b'shvil arba dvarim nichse ba'alei batim yotzin l'tamyon, for on account of four things the property of people just gets ruined. Al kovshei sachir, that they don't pay their workers. Val oshkei sachir, or if they're dishonest about the payment that is due to their workers. Val sheporkin ol me'al tzavrein, or that they venosnen al chavrein, that they remove some yoke from their neck and put it on their friend's neck. Don't do that. Val gasus haruach, and being haughty. But that's saruach keneged kulan, and being haughty is like really bad, like as bad as like everything. Avo ba'anovim ksiv, what does it say about the humble? Ba'anovim yushu aretz v'sa'angu arov shalom, that the humble people will inherit the land and they will enjoy lots of peace. Wow, that sounds nice. That sounds nice. Maybe I should be humble. That could be cool. What does it say? It says I'll inherit land. Alright, that sounds nice. Inherit land. This angua, and enjoy lots of peace. That sounds really nice. I should do that. I should be humble more. I should be humble. I should do that. It's a good idea. Hajjad Allah Hayashin. Very gewaldig. Alright, we will come back to you. Perak Hayashin. Gishmak. That was very nice. That was daf Chavtes, daf 29 of Masechta Sukkah. We talked about that for the festival of Sukkot. You go out of your house, right? Your Sukkah should be your primary residence, and your house should be your temporary residence. And we discussed at what point can you go inside from your. Well, first of all, we discussed what does this mean. It means that all the you should take out your nice dishes and your nice linens, and really your main priority should be in the sukkah. And we said, look, if it starts to rain, so then once the porridge already starts to become not so good, like a little messed up, so then you can go inside. We saw an incident with an anecdote with Rav Yosef, where some wood chips were coming down from the schach because it was windy. He said, look, that's enough, I'm going inside. We had a very interesting Rashi which said that learning Gemara be'iyun is mitzta'er, and mitzta'er patur min sukkah. So therefore you could learn outside of the sukkah. That was very interesting. We had the parable with the servant who goes to bring like a drink, a pitcher for his master, and the master pours it on his face. That's like what happens when it rains on Sukkot. And then we saw all sorts of like abstract Gemaras about when there are like issues with the sun and how it's not so gewald, and how maybe that comes about. And at the end we said it's good to be humble, because then you'll inherit real estate and also enjoy peace. So that sounds very nice. I'm going to try to be humble. Maybe let's all try to be humble, and we'll be able to meet up on each other's real estate and enjoy peace together. Chevra, have a peaceful day. Peace out.